Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So today we've got another good looking puzzle from FullDeck and missing a few cards. This one is called Clues Aswirl. And pardon me if I'm wiping at my face. My AC has been out for 4 straight days. It finally got turned on just a few minutes ago, but it's going to take a little while for things to cool down in here. And while things are still warm, I have to keep my window closed, so that's not causing a distraction. I've got to keep a fan going. Headphones I could probably take off to help me out, but I'm sticking with them for now. But anyway, I'm babbling, and I'm going to stop babbling. Who's Aswirl? Looked good. FullDeck and missing a few cards. Let's get into our rules, and let's start figuring things out. So, standard Sudoku rules apply. Every row, every column, and every 3x3 box contains the digits 1 through 9 once each. Arrows, digits along an arrow must sum to the number indicated in the circle from which the arrow emerges. So we have a few arrows here. So whatever these two digits are, when you add them together, they add up to that digit. Same with these two, would add up to that digit, etc. Then we've got cages. Digits in cages cannot repeat and must sum to the value shown in the upper left corner of the cage. So these two digits here, let's say, would just be, they would add up to that 8 value. And that's all there is to it. So it's fairly light in terms of how many types of rules there are, but there's plenty going on in this thing. And with that said, let's get started on this thing and see if we can get it figured out. And so I can get out of this office and try to cool down a little bit more. So where do we start? We've got a couple things I just sort of noticed off the cuff, like this guy here must be 1 and 3. It's the only way to make 4 in 2 cells. Now, does that 1, 3 affect this 9 now? Because this has to be a 2 cell. So this one can no longer be 8, 1 and 6, 3. But it could still be 7, 2 or 5, 4. So that doesn't do a whole lot of good for us. The other options are these 5s, but there's 2 ways to make 5s. So that's not great. This 8 cage must have a 1 on it somewhere. But again, I don't like pencil marking outside of a region. So that would be not ideal. Well, is there something we can do with where these arrows cross over our cages? Because we're going to know a little bit of something about these in terms of what the high and low values of them can be. Like this one right here, we know this circle has these 2 digits that add up to it. We know that these 3 digits added up equal 8, so therefore this can never be 8. It must be some value less than 8. The problem is, it seems like anything less than 8, except for 1, or 2 actually, is still possible. Let's just do a quick how's your father on that one and see if that sparks anything. Because these could very well be 1, 2, and these could be 1, 2. They would just be like 1s would be in these 2, and 2s would be in these 2, or something along those lines. That's still perfectly doable. Now, 4 would still work here as well, because we'd have, trying to look backwards against on this one. So if this is a 4, these would be 1 and 3, but we could just put a 4 here and that would satisfy this 8 clue. And the 1s and 3s would work perfectly fine in any way with these other cages that we've created, or that we have here that we've created. Now, that is the only one of all of these that seems to be particularly useful in the regard that I was stating as into the 2 couple of digits that are part of a larger cage. Now I'm guessing there is, on some of these other ones, there is going to be a bare minimum what we can use instead of a maximum like this one is. because these two digits have to add up to at least 8, right? To allow for this last digit to be at least a 9. So that means that this is an 8 or a 9. These guys have to add up to at least 5. That's not as useful here. These guys have to add up to at least 4. These guys are a bit tricky where they cross borders over. Well, I guess let's look at that more in depth. If this is an 8, this has to be 9. And if this is 9, these have to be 8. So we do have a 9-8 pair. Well, 9-8, a designation of 9 or 8 here. So is it going to be, we're going to have to look at a bunch of these in concert to try to figure out what could possibly be. Now, the thing I did notice about these, the ones where it crosses between two cages, is that it's the circle within the cage instead of the portions of the arrow that are in the cage. Now, if this is either 8 or 9, let's look at it in terms of this 14 cage. If this is 9, this has to equal, okay, there we go. Let's use the given clue. I so rarely have a given clue that sometimes they just disappear from sight. If this is a 9, these have to equal 4. The only way to do it is a 1-3 pair. We have a 3 here. They can't be that. This is 8. So therefore, this is 9. Now, if this is 8, these have to equal 5, and we can't use a 3, so it's a 1-4. Now, if this is a 1, that would force this to be a 7 and break it, so this has to be the 4, this has to be the 1, this has to be a 4, this has to be a 3. Okay, now we're starting to move. We've got a little bit of information going now. Can we continue that? We know these equal to 8, but we don't know what they are. There's multiple things that they could be. So do we have another trick similar to how this worked out that we can do elsewhere? Okay, so we said these two have to at least equal 5. Let's start putting some of this in. Let's see how it fares for us. This can never be a 9, because these would both have to be 1. The 1s and the 4s don't quite line up yet to help us out here. And, well, we know this can't be a 5, because if these are equal 5, this would have to be a 9, so that's not 5. So we're going to get, I guess, a couple of options, 3 options, actually, for what this equals. Because if this equals 6, these have to equal 8. 7 goes to a 7, and 6, or the other 8 goes with 6. Hope I didn't say that backwards when I was saying if these are equal to 6, 8, this equals 6 or something like that, whatever. So these have to be from 6, 7, or 8. How does that help us? Is there anything that's restricted here? I don't think so. What else can we look at? Well, maybe this guy here. If this is a 6, these have to equal 5. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, or 4. It can't be, oh, sorry. This can't be 1 or 4 or 3. So this would just be a 2. And therefore, this would have to be the 3. If this is a 7, these have to add up to 4, so it'd have to be a 1-3 pair. That doesn't work because we can't put 1 or 3 in here. So this can't be 7. Now, if this is 8, these have to be in a 1-2 pair. This would be 2 and this would be 1. So is this always 2 no matter what? If this is 6, we know these have to equal 5. So they have to be from 1, 2, 3, or 4. This can only be 2. If this is 8, we know then that this is a 1-2 pair. This can't ever be 1, so this would, the 1 would be over here, and this would be 2. So that just has to be 2. Okay, that's kind of weird how that works out. We end up with a 1-3 pair here as well. But we also do know now that these have to be 3s so that this can equal 6, because we can't ever get to an 8. So therefore that's 1. So this has to equal 6, which means I think this has to equal 8. Yep, because these would be 6 plus 8. These two equaling to 6, this 1, 5, or 4, 2 are the only ways to do it. This can't be 1 or 4, which means this has to either be 4 or 1. Okay, there's a little something. And can we continue to, as the name of this puzzle would imply, we're kind of intended to swirl around, maybe. So we might need to have to start looking around this edge somewhere. I want to see if there's anything here, because this 8 clue is limited a little bit. Because we know it can't be 5-3, so it's either a 7-1 or a 6-2. This can't be 1, 2, or 6, therefore it just has to be 7. Is that accurate? 7-1, 6-2 cannot be 5-3, and obviously can't be 4-4. So yeah, it has to be from 1, 2, 6, and 7. This can't be 1, 2, or 6, so that just is 7. This is 1. Okay? It's amazing how those things work out. Now, is that the same concept going to work over here at the 9? This can't be 8-1, and it can't be 6-3. So it's either 7-2 or 5-4. It's not going to yet, because I think we need to probably do something down in here. Now, this can't be a 7 anymore, because if these were adding to 7, this would have to be a 1. That 1 is there, so let's get rid of that. If this is a 6, this has to be 2. If it's a 5, it's 3. If it's a 4, it's 4. And if it's a 3, it's 5. So those are the options there. Now, don't necessarily see, well, okay, we knew there had to be a 1 in this 8 cage because it's 3-cell 8 cage. Just remembered that again. And there can't be a 1 here, so this has to just be a 1. Now, this can't ever be a 5, because if it is, no wait, that's wrong. I was thinking bad math. Forget I said that. So if this is a 1, we're going to end up having this either be 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I don't like this pencil marking like this, but I'm going to keep doing it for the moment. This is 1, 3, 4, 1, 4, 3, 1, 5, 2, 1, 2, 5. It can't be 1, 2, 5 in any situation because it would break this. So these cannot be from 2 and 5. So they are 3 and 4, which therefore means that this cannot be a 3 and it cannot be a 6. So we're down to 4 and 5. So let's just keep moving around our little swirl here. If it's a 4, it's either 1, 3, or double deuces. It cannot be a 1, 3. So this would have to be 2 2s. If it's a 5, it cannot be 4, 1, because we can't have a 1 on either. It would have to be 2, 3. So it's either 2 2s or it's a 2, 3. There can't be a 3 here. So this can't be 3. So this is always a 2, which means that's a 5, and this is a 1. Now we can't determine this one just yet. Well, yes, we can, because we know this now has to be 3. So therefore, it forces this to be 2, and this has to be 4. Okay, there we go. Now we've got 6 here, so this has to be 5. This can't be from 2, 4, or 5, so it's 7. That's going to give us our 9. Good. So we are getting things as we move around that circle. So I'm hesitant to try to go in and look at something like this because I don't know that it's necessarily going to work, particularly since we have been having luck going around here. But there are little things that we could pick up here, like one of these two has to be a 6, which could very well be important. Is there anything else that is of use? Doesn't appear to be. Okay, so let's continue on and see if we can figure out what any of these other ones might be. And then hopefully that'll kind of complete our encirclement, and then we can continue on. Let's put in our 5 options for now so that we can remove what it can't be. These can't be 1 or 2, therefore this can't be 3 or 4. We have a 3-4 pair here with the 1 and a 2, so the bare minimum, at least we can say here, is a 5 and a 6. That's 11. So this is either 5, 6 or 5, 7. And this has to be either a 1 or a 2. Because if this is 5, 6 to equal 11, this has to be 2. If it's 5, 7, it is a 12, and this has to be a 1. And this can't be a 2. So it is a 1, which means these have to be 5, 7. Okay, that actually worked out quite nicely. Now this digit here is either going to be 6 or 8. I thought we might actually get something there, but we can continue this down. This has to be a 2, so this has to be a 3, which means this has to be 4 and 3. We could have done some of that earlier as well. That's okay. This now is either a 3 or a 5 because we have to get to 6 or 8. So let's put that in. And how does that affect this? Let's see. If this is a 3 and a 6, that's 9. This would have to be 4. That works perfectly fine. If this is a 5, this would have to be an 8, and that's 13. That breaks the puzzle. So it cannot be. This is 3, this is 6, and this is 4. That 6 here figures this one out. So let's get rid of that stuff. Not necessary anymore. Now, this guy's got to be pretty close to being done, right? Or we can maybe start looking at something like this, because this middle region has almost everything done as well. Let's start here, and then we'll come back over to some of these other cages. So we must have a 2 and a 6. So this has to be a 2 or a 6, because we have to make 8. That 6 sees it. So this is 2. Nope. Come on now. You, right here. Only you are a 2. You're a 6, which means you're a 2. Okay, so we did get some good information there. What about these guys? We're going to do this real quick first, too. We need to have a 3. No. We need to have a 6, an 8, and a 9. There's a couple of things we can remove as options, but they're not great. Yeah, so let's not go into rows and columns too much right now. Let's look back at this 10. So it's either a 9-1. Well, it's not a 9-1 because we have a 9-1 here. It can't be 8-2 because we have 8s and 2s looking at it. It can't be 7-3, so it must just be 6-4. There's a 4 here, so this is 6 and 4. And we're probably, well, let's just finish our clues if we can. This can't be 9-3 because we've got a 3 looking at it. So it could be 8-4 or 7-5. Neither one of these can be 4, so it's not 8-4, so it is 5-7 at the end of the day, which gives us a 5-7 pair right here. What does that leave left? Leave left? That's good English. What does that leave us in the rest of this row? We have to have a 2 somewhere, and it can't be here or here, so it must be here. We have to have a 3 somewhere, it can't be here, so it must be here, and then we're just left with an 8 to go here. And I think we're probably really just into Sudoku now. Yeah, because that has to be 1. This has to be 1. This has to be 1. That's all our 1s. I think we're going to have the same situation with our 2s. Yeah, 2s are done. The 3s are already done. That's good. The 4 has to go here, which I think is going to finish out this guy. And what's left? You have to be 4. That's all our 4s. Let's go into our 5s then. If you don't have any clues really to work with anymore, it's just Sudoku. One of these is 5. Not really liking how that's working out, though. One of those is a 5. Nope, I don't see 5s just yet, so let's move on from them. They'll come back later, hopefully. This is a 6. You know, one of these two is 6. We know this one is a 6. So I think we have an X-Wing left over on 6s. Yeah, these two and these two. So we'll move to our 7s. See if we can get anything going there. And not really. So let's look elsewhere. 8's doing any good? No. No, no, no. And then 9s would be the last one. There's nothing really there. Okay, so let's look at our possible options in regions, rows, and columns then. So we need 7 and 9 here. That doesn't help. This has to be 7 or 9. These two have to be from 8 and 9. I don't see anything there either. And the rest of these are not quite as good as I'd hoped they'd be. This has to be 7 or 9. What about in here? There has to be an 8 in one of these two, which means we have an X-Wing on 8s. So none of these can be 8s, and this 8 here sees this one, so this ends up being an 8, and that's going to give us this column. So this has to be 9, which is going to break this up, so we get to 6. This is not 6. These two guys are not necessarily given, but they're 5s and 7s, which means this has to be an 8 or a 9, because it's all that's left, and we've got an 8, so we'll put the 9 and the 8 and 9, and that might get us going around the block a few times. And it may not. Well, let's continue then. These two guys are going to solve these 7s and 9s here. This has to be from 5 and 7, so this is 9. That's 7, 9. That's 7. That's 5 and 7. We could have done this one too here earlier for that one, but that's okay. This is 5, this is 7. And this is a given now of 5. These are 8s and 9s. Let's just put those in, and then we'll try to close this thing out. So these are 5s or 7s. We have a 7 here. So this is the 7 and the 5. This is our 5 down here. These have to be from 8 and 9. We've got a 9, so that's 8. That's 9. That's 8, 9, 8, 9. And we just have these last few digits here. So let's put them in and figure them out. We've got 6 and 7. 6 there does that. 7, 6. That 7's going to give us our 5 and our 7. And then these left are 5 and 8. So this has to be that 5 and this has to be the 8. There you go. You solved the puzzle. That was a fun one. I got stuck for a second there, but at the end it really came together once I kind of saw where to look. But not bad. Yeah, really enjoyed that one. It turned out to be a pretty quick solve for me, which is fairly unusual. It doesn't usually take me 20 minutes to solve one. Particularly from FullDeck and missing a few cards. There's usually kind of on the not hard version. I mean, they have very hard ones that I haven't really tried yet, but most of the ones they're kind of in the mid-range. I think they have their own naming system for it, like indigestion, heartburn, that sort of thing. I think this one was considered indigestion, but anywho, that was a great puzzle. Loved it. Hope you all did as well. Like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. It really helps me out. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs. That would be huge for me. We're not too far away, to be honest with you. And anyway, hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.